second is intercultural training. So I hope to be able to present to you the intercultural training aspect later this year, maybe in December or so. But today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Macro Spanish, which is our Spanish language training service. And just so you know, for context, this isn't something that I'm like practicing a pitch looking for funding. It's more just kind of getting the idea out there and getting feedback on what people think and what they're confused about. So just for context. So let's get started. Macro Spanish provides you with your own linguistic coach. You meet virtually on your schedule, and you learn customized curriculum built for your abilities and goals. So often language learning, if you've tried to learn a language, if you've been successful or if you haven't been successful, you've probably dealt with some of these barriers. You can read them up there. They probably sound familiar. Macro Spanish is designed to help you over all of these barriers. So let me explain a little how it works. We have you and your favorite device, whatever that may be, your computer, your laptop, or your tablet, your phone, and then we match you with your coach. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about where these coaches come from, who they are, but they are professional language teachers who have taught for a long, long time, and their job, besides teaching you the content, is to motivate you, to engage you, to track your progress, and to make it fun. Honestly, that's what's most important about your coach. And the third aspect of Macro Spanish is your missions. So, as opposed to exams, Macro Spanish is really designed to set up missions that you have to accomplish in the real world to make sure that you're learning the language. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of those in a little bit. But as a summary, this is Macro Spanish. You, your coach, and your missions equals your success with language. And here is Tom Cruise making Mission Impossible possible. I just thought it was funny because he looks like he's on the computer talking to somebody with his little microphone. I was like, oh my gosh, he's using Macro Spanish right now. That's what happens when you work by yourself. And everybody you work with is in Latin America.
Google image search.
Yes, exactly. Literally. Okay, let me tell you a couple stories as examples. This is Andrea. Andrea works for Kimberly Clark, and she's a marketing executive, and she works in the Latin American region. She speaks some Spanish, but not a lot, and it isn't really a big problem because a lot of her colleagues in Latin America speak pretty good English. However, she has come to find that there are some real limitations with communication, even though people are speaking the same language. And all of the marketing materials she sees coming across her desk, or the commercials, are in Spanish, and she doesn't fully understand them. So she can Google Translate the crap out of them, but that's not doing her a lot of good. So Andrea signs up with Macro Spanish, and her first mission, to give you an example of a mission, is in 2 months, she's going to have one of those marketing materials that she sees constantly. That's going to be her mission, to explain that to someone. So that someone she's going to explain it to is not going to be her teacher. It's going to be somebody else in our organization, so that it's a little bit more realistic, or somebody in her organization, potentially, with us overseeing it. So that's her mission. So up until then, her coach is designing a curriculum that's going to help her understand that. So as opposed to just teaching, this is the alphabet, these are how you conjugate, she's learning words that she's going to see in her professional life. She's learning phrasing that's important in advertising, which is very different than just the phrasing you'd use day to day. So that's what her curriculum looks like up to this mission. And then she'll set another mission down the road. So that's Andrea. This is Jason. I like Jason as an example. He's great. He just graduated college. He's got a degree in Spanish. He spent 6 months studying abroad in Spain. He's set, right? He speaks Spanish. He got a pretty good job in an insurance company here in the U.S. because he needs to speak Spanish to people, or because they need people who speak Spanish. Well, come to find out, spending 6 months in Spain doesn't totally teach you the exact same things as working with people about their insurance claims. He and his employer discovered this rather quickly. So what he's doing with Macro Spanish is learning a specific vocabulary that will help him. And his time with Macro Spanish Spanish is going to be rather short, because he already has a lot of the language context. He's going to be learning some really specific things. Jason also has a Spanish accent. And he's working with a lot of people. A lot of the people who speak Spanish in the US aren't from Spain. And that accent is throwing off his interactions a little bit. So we're also working with him on how to have a more neutral accent and neutral vocabulary, because vocabulary varies significantly across Spanish. So let me tell you a little bit about why us. So like I said, I work for Grupo Macro here. And Grupo Macro is a multinational company, like I said, based in Latin America, so we have an existing structure. I guess the point is we don't have a lot of additional fixed costs, like we have accountants, we have web development people, things like that. Another important part of our existing structure is the Center for Latin American Studies. So this is a language school. It's physically in the same building as our office in Ecuador. The Center for Latin American Studies has been around for 25 years teaching Spanish to people who don't know Spanish. Mostly British diplomats and US university students. And I was one of those students in 2004. Signed up for Facebook, sitting in the Center for Latin American Studies. We'll never forget that. Anyway, so the Center for Latin American Studies has a bunch of teachers already. We've been teaching adult learners for years and years, so this gets into the experience. But we have this structure, we have the experience of successful learning. Another benefit that we're working with is business connections and reputation. So both the Center for Latin American Studies, like I said, has been successfully teaching British diplomats and university students for years, so at least we have some people who are sort of can say, yes, those people do a good job. And then Grupo Macro works with a lot of international firms already, like Coca-Cola and large Latin American banks. So again, there's people there. We're not starting from scratch. And finally, we have a passion for learning. That is a value that we really care about in Grupo Macro, and it's also something that we obviously are sharing with our students all the time. So that will support this project. Our markets. I just wanted to talk a little bit about who we think is going to care about this product. First is what we've named ejectivos, that means executives in Spanish. So these are typically people who work in international firms that are in Latin America, or Spain, I guess. And what we know about that area is that foreign investment in Latin America has really increased over the last 10 years. There's been this really huge shift of people out of poverty into sort of middle class. And so that means that a lot of people have a lot more disposable income, so companies like, McDonald's, Dell, companies like that are all really diving into that market and have recently. The GDP has also been increasing in Latin America pretty rapidly. That sort of seems to be evening off a little bit now, but we know, or we think that it's not going to really dip anytime soon, and that those companies aren't going to be exiting. And anecdotally, we know that this is of interest among this group because of our current connections with those organizations. The second market is what we're calling Press 2 for Spanish. So this is organizations that are typically in the United States that serve Spanish-speaking clientele, or want to better serve that clientele. So what we know about this group is that, or this market is that there's a large number of Spanish-speaking people in the US, as we all know. It's about 40 million people who are above the age of 5 who speak Spanish in the home. We also know that that group of people, although a lot of them speak English as well, are pretty comfortable speaking in Spanish, like interacting with businesses in Spanish. And that's something businesses are starting to recognize. And so, anyway, we see that there's going to be a need for, or there is already a need for people to be able to approach their customers on their language level. And then finally, bon voyage. We have a couple of personas for bon voyage. The first is the retirees who are going to either spend significant time in Latin America or they're just going there to live. Of the top 10 places that people retire outside of the United States, or places US people retire outside the United States, something like, I can't remember exactly, 7 or 8 of them are in Latin America. A lot of them go and live in English to each other, but a lot of them still need to be able to learn some Spanish. And then the other is your sort of responsible traveler. So somebody who really feels like they need to have a grasp on the language before they go. And this market I haven't done as much work on, like understanding it. I think it's a little bit more open and accessible, but it's also going to have a lot less retention. So kind of starting with this market. I want to share with you a little bit about my marketing strategy now. Of course, like a lot of people, this is sort of the #1 challenge. You can make a great thing, but can you sell it? And this is where I definitely am right now. So for our markets of Ejectivos and Press2 for Spanish, I see starting with appropriate industry is really important. Whether that be, I mean, it's sort of obvious, I've already covered this a little bit, but organizations that are working in Latin America and those that serve Spanish-speaking populations, finding the decision makers and getting in front of them and presenting to them is the next step. And then this retention and recommendations is something that I always want to keep at the top of our mind for the marketing strategy. This, keeping people around, having them be successful and wanting to learn more is going to be a really important part of that. And then, of course, the recommendations. And like I said, the Bon Voyage market, I think that'll be a little bit more online focused after I do a little bit more research there. Finally, you may be wondering how much this costs. So Macro Spanish is priced at $200 a month. It's 4 hours of class time with your teacher in any way, shape, or form that needs to happen. Weekly exercises and practice are going to be coming from your teacher, your coach, sort of like a personal trainer at the gym, right? This is somebody who's your buddy, your friend. They're gonna make you want to do this. And then your coach is going to be available through chat, through texting, every day. They're going to be texting you. You're going to be texting them to ask questions. And then just for comparison's sake, here's some other typical language learning strategies. Rosetta Stone is $500, but I don't know about you, but every time I go to the airport, I can get it for $300, right? The Language Lounge is a local Fort Collins-based language school, and private lessons there are $189 a month, and then I think you have to sign up for 3 months at a time. And then if you were just to go to a language school in Latin America, be immersed for however long you want to do that, but about $300 a week. And then there are other websites like italki that like Spanish teachers sign up, and people who want to learn sign up, and then you're matched with them. And that's about $15 an hour. So, okay, so I have some questions here to ask you what you think. But first, I just want to make sure that there aren't any sort of like clarifying questions or what are you confused about? And otherwise, I'd love to hear your feedback on Macro Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah. Just on the price point.
Yeah.
You've got the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
Is Rosetta Stone. So I don't know if, because Rosetta Stone is part of the $299, they also offer chat time with individuals. If you do the online version as opposed to the CD version, I know that because not only I'm a client.
Yeah.
so I'm not sure that I'm really compelled after listening that, boy, this is, I would be happy to leave Rosetta Stone and go with this. I don't really see a clear differentiation that would compel me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's good.
I'd argue the exact opposite. I love the idea that the coach comes up with a project for me to do that relates to my work, that relates to my job.
Yeah.
That means the coach actually has to know me, think about me. That value add is so much higher that I would intentionally price it much higher.
Right.
And sell to a business. This is the elite, super duper one. It's $500 a month. Yeah, you can buy Rosetta Stone and the hair club for men guy. He'll pay $299 for that, but that's differentiate the product, and part of it is price. When you compete on price, it's a race to the bottom.
Exactly. Yes.
So go to the top and You'd rather have one guy paying you $500 a month than two people paying you $250.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So to plus that, I think that.
So I converted you?
No, I was, what I picked up and what I wasn't picking up, but I think you've captured it and it's important, is identifying that differentiation. In other words, because Rosetta Stone is like, Kleenex, everybody knows it, they're very well marketed, so what is gonna make this a value? And if it was like, for example, if it was specifically on a topic like legal, like if you're a lawyer and you want to work in that, or if you're a finance guy or just whatever it is, that would be a differentiation. So I like that. I think that's very powerful.
Competing on value is, there's always where you want to be competitive. You said, the race to the bottom is correct, and a large company is more concerned about results at that point.
Yeah.
So your $200 is meaningless to me if I have an employee sitting there who can't work. So, the value that you're providing to them, as I said, the differentiation really should be on talking to them at their level and what they want. You're thinking about your $200 that you're thinking about your wallet. You're not thinking about their wallet. Does that make sense?
I'm taking notes. I'm totally not texting. Yeah, totally.
So,
keep talking.
So you understand, what are you hearing us say?
Sorry.
Now, what are you hearing us say?
Well, I'm feeling like one thing that I've been thinking about is the specialization, like pointing out, like, okay, this is the legal version. Because that exists, like our teachers are there and they're ready to create that, or they already have for a lot of our, we're also doing this already for people who are learning English. So they've already, those are different languages obviously, but the curriculum is built for a lot of those and effective. So that's what I'm hearing. And I'm also hearing the value needs to be standing out a little bit more. Yeah, thank you for that.
The question that I'm wondering about is, I love the stories that you told, and it sounds like the training that you provide has a very, very practical, hands-on approach. And I can see that the overall package might be useful for me, but the question I have is, what's in the box? Because you provide the screenshot of a FaceTime session, and you say 4 hours, but I'm thinking, so what do I actually get? Is that, do I get personal training via a video chat? Do I get any printed materials? What do the 4 hours of classwork include? So the strategy I understand, and I see the core benefits for me, but what is it exactly that I get? How would a classroom session like that feel like? How is it set up?
Well, and I think that that's really important to, assuming that this is happening virtually, like I think that that's uncomfortable for some people. Like I'm going to sit down at my computer and meet someone for the first time. So if you can see a little bit more, like, okay, this is what we're actually going to be doing, this is who that person is, more or less.
And also, is there any printed material? So when I switch off the session, do I have to arrange and manage everything myself, like make a task list, a to-do list, or is it like a project paper that says go through these tasks?
Right, yeah. For the English version, we have already like we're trying to be really flexible and not get into like, okay, sign on to your, screen where your homework is, and how to be more like interactive and, but we do have that existing already in case that becomes the most important. I don't know, okay.
4 hours, is it enough?
A month?
Yeah, are people able to meet their goals or do their projects or whatever in 4 hours?
It's an intense instruction period. One of the things we've thrown around is not having it be 1 hour, like a whole hour of instruction, but rather shorter periods, because it is a good question. How much can you really take in?
My question is, why not just, if you're raising the price point especially, why not just say, we'll get you to your goal and not have a limit? And if the person comes in and says, I want to be able to understand this brochure, that's their project, then your tutors or whoever is going to have to look at it and say, well, that's a 5-month thing, or that's a 2-month thing, or that's a 2-week thing. But I look at that and I wonder, am I actually going to be able to learn anything in 4 hours a month? And on the other hand, you probably have people who have high pressure jobs wondering, am I going to be able to spend 4 hours a month on this? So I would shift it from that time period and say, we're going to let you meet your goal, and it's this much a month, and depending on how hard your goal is, that's how much it's going to cost you.
Can I paraphrase for a second? Sell the outcome.
Sell me, right, yeah. So how you're gonna get there. Yeah, very good. Thank you. That's a good idea, yeah.
So, a lot of these guys talked about, you mentioned doing the segments, whether it's for legal or for finance and stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily, maybe marketing, you could break it down that way, but a lot of it is about the goal setting, from what it sounds like, and why am I coming to learn? Because some people might be, I just want to live in this place and feel welcomed already when I get there, feel like I know what's going on. Other people might be the business people that I'm doing law work there, or if you're a salesperson, there's just different stuff, but I feel like that goal setting and that why is such a big part of that, and it's not necessarily putting together materials for legal, putting together materials for X, Y, Z. It's going, what do you want out of this?
Yeah, that's good. I'm just going to try to put it in my brain.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, please.
I think you have a couple things here. One is, when I visit with people from foreign countries and I can get them on where I'm visibly watching them, I have a lot better understanding of what they're saying because I can see their body action. I can read their lips. Okay. The other thing you have is in most industries you're specialized, and what you're really interested in is you want to know what are those specific words that are applicable to my business and my industry, so that I can read text or I can listen to words as key words. So basically what you end up with is a relationship, and I think that the fact that you have somebody on there on live with a tutorial, so much of language, in watching you speak, you move with your hands, etc. You can see that when you're video chatting. If you watch any of this Spanish language soap operas, they're a hoot.
Yeah, right.
Okay, because the words and the mannerisms are so much different, and that gives emphasis to the words.
Yeah, totally. Well, not so much. I feel like you're saying too. Not so much about language learning. It's really in the Spanish that I speak with my colleagues in Ecuador. There's just this song to it sometimes. I know that I can be so much more, and that's what you see when you're watching those soap operas. Yeah. Okay. Great.
So I know one of the markets that you were addressing was the travel market. For those people, maybe you got a friend who has, a family or house in one of those other countries, which I know I do, right? But I'm not going to go there because now I moved out here and attached to a couple other people that would be coming with me. So would it be for the family travel package sort of thing, so that we could all not look as though we're not putting forth any effort at all to ask for the bathrooms or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is there something like that, so that very often people do travel, they take, even groups of friends will take vacations at the same time, and they could all be sitting in front of their computer screens at their own homes, they'll all be connected to the same coach at the same time. And I don't know, is that something that is part of that just put in the slides, or is that even in the mix at all?
We always say at our class, which is the Ambient Center for Latin American Studies, anything is possible, right? Anything is possible, and that's part of what we have the flexibility to do. It's kind of anything. We have teachers, we have coordinators of our language programs and everything. So it's just a matter of me being able to somehow communicate that we're sort of open to everything, but also not doing the shotgun approach of trying to find customers, wherever they'll come from. So it's a balance between those two things.
So
but if you want to do it, yeah, totally.
And say, listen, I want to go into this country, can you
Yeah.
all of us want to go?
Yeah,
question about what's in the box.
Yeah.
And so it strikes me that a marketing strategy that's built around selling those coaches. So, I get engaged and I see an example of a coach who, has legal expertise or whatever. And so my question is, how do you find your coaches? How do you vet them? What's that process look like?
Yeah, good question. It's something I meant to do in the presentation actually. So that language school that we have, AFAS, it was founded and is currently still directed by Fernando Mino Garces, who got his PhD at Georgetown, and he worked at the Catholic University in Quito for years and years and was the dean. So basically he knows like every language student ever in Ecuador and Quito. So at this point in time, that's how we find our teachers. It's just through recommendations and just having a good reputation in Quito. It's not really that big of a city. So they are always students who have master's degrees in some sort of linguistics or language study or teaching English or teaching Spanish as a foreign language. And then they are vetted just as any employee would be through application processes and evaluations and things like that. So it's pretty. I mean, that's something that differentiates us from a lot of language schools in Latin America. Is just really high quality teachers, which is part of the reason why we've been able to have university level students from US come year after year.
Okay. So their expertise in things other than the linguistics are something that they pick up on the side as part of their job, or?
Most of them are just full-time teachers for us.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Well, so if I'm a software developer and I need to engage other software developers speaking in Spanish,
Yes.
there's some specific things there that I'm not going to get at Spanish 101.
Right, exactly.
Hopefully your teachers can engage me on that level.
Yeah.
So they're having to pick that stuff up as part of their job.
That's part of their job.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's sort of the flexibility that I'm talking about, and the we can do anything. There's just like this idea that this is what we get to learn now. How are you going to learn it? Who are we going to? What's a resource? Like it's being a good employer, kind of. Okay, this is the job you have to do. How can we help you do that? And how fast can you do it? I mean, there's sort of a like by the seat of your pants kind of part of it that's happening.
Yeah.
But it's something we've been doing for a while, and it's been successful, and it fits kind of culturally as well. It's not as like scary there as it might be for a teacher here. But yeah.
Okay, so that's a huge competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And sell that.
Okay. Let me think of something, but I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, sorry guys. I feel like I don't.
I was just going to say that to answer that question, what would I need, and what hesitation would I have, it does echo on what Will just said. It's like if I'm somebody that needs to go down, like I had an example, I was making a movie or scouting a movie I was making in Dominican Republic. I needed to talk contracts, but those language skills were missing. So how would I know that your teachers or your instructors can speak into that particular expertise, and how would I learn that ahead of time? That would cause me to hesitate.
Yeah. This is interesting too, and part of the reason we had sort of the confidence around getting our teachers to learn these things is that we have Grupo Macro like upstairs. We have a whole business running as well. So they're the teachers that are in the language school, right? But then the parent company essentially is business people who are doing contracts every day. We have our marketing people, we have our web development people. Like you could talk to Moises, who's like the guy.
Like, but do you market this somehow to me so that I know that this particular coach has actually had legal experience, worked as a lawyer in this country doing these kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean it wouldn't be that specific. I don't think we could say yet, okay, this is somebody who was a lawyer who's also qualified to teach you language.
So how do you get somebody like Coca-Cola to sign up for this? Well, you said you threw out Coca-Cola as one of the clients.
Yeah.
That you've worked with.
Coca-Cola is one of the clients of our parent company, not of Macro Spanish. So they're doing our like leadership trainings, and they're also doing the customer service trainings for another project that we have. But I think your point is good. It's like you want to really know that when you sit down to have a contract, like that's a really important part of your business, and you can't like mess around, right? Yeah.
Well, and that's what Carl spoke about too. It's like, I need to know what my end goal, or Roger probably said this, like, I need to know what my end goal is. So I gotta say that this whole subscription idea, $200 a month, is just, all these internet companies are just throwing this crap on the wall to see what sticks. I don't want to sign up for every month. I need to know how to do this and how long it's gonna take. So set me a project price, and be done with it. Or if I'm if I'm a traveler, I'm like, need to learn this. I don't want to wait. I want 12 hours a month. I want to do it all in a month because I'm going next month. So you might really reconsider how you structure pricing. Maybe break your markets up and don't throw the same number at all three of those markets. Differentiate the executive level. I mean, charge them $1,000 an hour. What do you have to do, right? To make it fit, you got to know those markets.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. Yes.
I think you mentioned 3 specific categories with respect to the markets that you guys focus on and emphasize, and I think with respect to your unique value as a company, it sounds like your focus probably a little bit more is better geared towards the executive level that you mentioned, and as well the what was his name, Marcos, that was on the phone.
Jason.
Jason. Because just sort of echoing what Will said, it seems as though the core of your business is selling those teachers. The language aside, because we all know there's 101 different companies out there that try and teach you Spanish, but what you're doing is more of a focused, specialized teaching to prepare someone for a specific instance, it sounds like. So in my thought process, I would, in terms of marketing strategy there, it may be best to focus on those higher level markets, because if I were someone in the Bon Voyage category, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Babylon here, but they have subscriptions as low as like $7 a month. And if I just want to go and brush up on some Spanish before I get ready to head to the DR, then I would do that as opposed to trying to go and pay $200 a month to go and learn some Spanish just for vacation. So it seems as though with your core business, it's probably best just to look at marketing directly to those higher level niches, and to focus in echoing what he said, to really tell me, what do I get out of the box? This amount of hours or this time period, these are the teachers that we have, so maybe state your industries that you can really tell me, okay, we can work in tech, or we can work in theater, we can work in legal, and then sort of from there, now you have a place to start with those executives and say, hey, yeah, we can pinpoint you with respect to this industry. Because right now it's sort of a broad thing, and in trying to hit everybody, essentially, you mentioned, oh, we can do whatever. Well, that's all well and great, but if I'm a business guy looking to talk to somebody within, if we're talking about me, and I want to talk about sports specifically in basketball, well, hey, who can one of your teachers that's sports specific, that I can learn, give me 12 to 24 hours of concentrated, intense training, so that when I go next week to wherever, to Spain, now I'm set up and I know what I'm going for. So,
trying to figure out how to like divide it all up, because it's so tempting to go for everything, right? Like so I'm like, oh, sports, I thought of that.
right.
But it's like you just have to go. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that I think that it's if you're looking specifically at the executives and companies as purchasers, which for your first 2 audience, both are going to go through a company. To speak to some of the things that were said earlier, just the process of getting a purchase order through a big company is enough of a pain in the butt that, like, there's no amount of money you can ask for that they won't even blink at. and specifically because you're talking about dedicated real-time human hours, which isn't something that scales. Unless you're capturing the expertise of the first person who goes and builds a legal curriculum and then reusing it, which I'm sure you're doing, but that somewhat dilutes what you're selling, right? Like you're selling a person. You have to have a person for every new client you get. You should crank that price like way up.
To tell you what, that's what we're charging the people in Ecuador who are learning English, which is like
Sure,
insane.
yeah.
Like they're paying for that there, you know what I mean? The salaries.
It's like health insurance.
Yeah.
These executives are paying easily, just because I know what I pay my coaches, they're paying $10, $20, $50,000 for a coach. Don't even blink it. And if you're sitting in my office as an executive and you're selling me $1,200, I'm not trying to be hard on you. I think the harder we are on you, the easier it is for when you go back to sell somebody. You've walked into my office. What you're selling me is an outcome and a lifestyle that's going to make me money. That means something to me now. Not how much your program costs, but how much that value is going to mean to me and how much you're going to make from that. So if you sell me something that's $10,000 or $20,000, and I'm going to be sending somebody out in my sales force that's going to be making me hundreds of thousands of dollars, the decision is really easy for me. When you look at me across the table and you say to me, Bob, John, and how much is it worth to you to get where you want to go? Is it worth $20,000 to you to make $1 million next year with a salesperson? Don't even think about it. What you said is right. $1,200 sale going through the purchasing department. Right. You've spent $1,200 of my time in my office today.
Okay. Let's take it up a level. Harrison? Yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of languaging, I would get rid of teacher and use personal trainer or coach.
Okay. Yeah. I default to that sometimes, but yeah. That's good. Yeah.
So another thing you might want to think about, which I think you could get this kind of money for as well, is that instead of having just people with master's degrees, which that's academic as opposed to real world, is to try to find the lawyer who is good at teaching, or the salesperson who is really good at working with people one-on-one, which usually